My name is Domingus, and we are the group. And here's our documentation.
Your services requires high direct contact between the customer and the service facility.
Good day, I'm Rashida and I'm going to explain further about the
Not everyone is your potential customer. The potential customer is a person who
Customer contact matrix. It is like manner.
I'll be discussing two types of contact: active contact and passive contact. Good day, everyone. My name is Domingus, and we are the group 3. And here's our documentation regarding to our report. Our topic is all about the customer contact approach. In here, we have our learning objectives. First, we have to identify what is the meaning of customer contact approach. The second one, we have to identify what are the importance of the customer contact approach. And lastly, we have to classify services based on the customer contact approach. Next, we have here our introduction. In introduction, in service operation, the customer is not only one side while the services are being provided or while the services are being promoted, but also participates in the production of the service output. Here in introduction, in here, the physical presence and involvement of the customer in service operation allows variable customers' demands to occur. Next, we have here the customer contact approach. In here, most services are provided in the presence of the customer. In most service operations, the customer is not only present but also directly participates in the service delivery process. But remember this, guys, the greatest percentage contact time between the service system and the customer, the greater the degree of interaction between the two during to the method process. Again, my name is Ravi Cruz, and here's Miss Rosemary Pabian to discuss the customer contact model and classification of services.
The customer contact model has been developed to facilitate the service design decision. This model classifies services into high contact, low contact, and mixed services. The table shows the examples of the different services based on the extent of contact between the customer and the service facility. Your services requires high direct contact between the customer and the service facility. Examples of these are the entertainment centers, hotels, public transportation, restaurants, schools, and ATMs. Quasi-manufacturing, on the other hand, is entirely opposite of the pure services. Quasi-manufacturing requires low direct contact, and examples of it are wholesale houses, government, administration, and post office. Lastly, the mixed services. Based on the word itself, it is a mix of high and low contact or in the middle. Examples of these are banks and post office. These customer contact models' effectivity were questioned by the researchers as the contact time supply does not capture completely what is challenging about service sector management. That's why they propose again another approach, which is the Schmenner's Service Process Matrix.
Good day, I'm Rashila and I'm going to explain further about the Schmenner Service Process Matrix or the Schmenner 1986. So let me start by why did he came up with this type of idea or topic. He came up with this type of model because the first model that was made about customer contact approach, which is the Chase's customer contact model, lacks at information that it has, and a lot of researchers has questions about the model. So in return, he made this new model which can answer those questions and explain further the idea of customer contact approach. So as we can see on the Schmenner's service process matrix, On the upper part, it indicates degree of interaction and customization. And under it, it has two columns which are low and high. Under the low, the examples given are service factory and mass service. And under the high is service shop and professional service. And on the side, it indicates degree of labor intensity, and it also has two columns which also are low and high. So under the low, it indicates service factory and service shop, and under the high is mass service and professional service. Service factory and mass service are under low degree of interaction and customization. Why? Because they offer products or services that cannot be fully customized by their consumers, and they cannot exceed the customer's specific needs and wants if they cannot offer it. On the other hand, service shop and professional service are on their high degree of interaction and customization. Why? Because they offer products or services based on their patients or consumer needs. And this type of services, they cannot offer it to the other people or their other customers if they don't need it. The low degree of labor intensity are service factory and service shop. So the logic here is simple. Basically, because they don't require that much of labor compared to the mass service and professional service, which require higher labor intensity. So now that we are done with Schmanner service process matrix, let us now define the customer contact. So in CCM, customer contact is defined as the physical presence of the customer in the system. So that definition is quite narrow and restrictive, especially now that mostly services are done through phone, through apps, and technically physical presence of the customer does not really requires. So there is a need to have a broader definition of customer contact, one which incorporates service encounters involving direct, although not necessarily face-to-face contact between the customer and the service facility. So let us now proceed to active contact. Active contact is the direct contact between the customer and the service facility. So in order to produce the service or the product that the customer need or wants, there must be an high percentage of contact or a physical presence of the customer in the service facility. So one of the examples of active contact is healthcare services. In order to provide specific data which would enable the delivery of preferred service from a standard menu of available services, there must be an interaction between the service facility and the consumer.
I'll be discussing two types of contact, active contact and passive contact. So first, what is an active contact? It is defined as a direct contact between the customer and the service provider, which involves direct customer service system interaction. And it also has its own customization of the service, which means it is a degree of interaction and may result depending from the given information from the provider, which could influence the type and the outcome of the service. And a good example of active contact would be healthcare. The next is passive contact. It is defined as a direct contact between the customer and the service system itself, but does not involve or require the customer service system interaction. But it also requires the physical presence of the customer but in the system service itself. But does not generally require the customization of the service product. A good example would be subway or city buses.
Customer contact matrix. It is like Schmanner's service process matrix, but customer contact matrix is more elaborate than the Schmanner. In the cell A, it shows that this service requires high customer involvement and interaction. Customer must be physically present to obtain this service. This type of service need interaction between customers and service provider. And next is cell B. Cell B, here it shows the combination of high active and high passive contact. High active contact, this type of service suggests that customer interaction with the service provider should be high enough to meet the special needs of the customer with the form of customization. However, such services also requires that the customer perform certain activities without interacting with the service providers, even though the performance of such activities may have been influenced by prior interaction. Next is cell C. It represents services which typically requires the physical presence of the customer in the service facility, although the interaction with the service personnel is rather limited. Next is cell D. It represents services which may not require direct physical encounters between the customer and the service provider. The absence of direct face-to-face contact with the customer enables the service organization to schedule production at the most convenient time and to automate the service delivery process.
Potential customer. Not everyone is your potential customer. A potential customer is a person who is most likely to indulge with your business naturally. Identification of potential customer is important in order to market to them to become your customers. Potential then means any possibility of someone becoming a customer. New customer. New customer for a business means those people who never done a transactions or purchased any product from the brand house earlier. A brand should develop a positive thought in the mind of such new customers who has shown interest in your product but does not purchase it. Impulsive customer. Impulsive buying is the tendency of a customer to buy goods and services without planning in advance. When a customer takes such buying decision at the spur of the moment, it is usually triggered by the emotions and feelings. Impulsive customer means making an unplanned purchase. It is based on an irrational thinking. Discount customer. They shop your store frequently but make their decisions based on the size of your markdowns. Loyal customers. Customers' loyalty is a measure of a customer's likeliness to do repeat business with a company or brand. It is the result of customer satisfactions, positive customer experiences, and the overall value of the goods or services a customer receives from a business.